Hey everybody, this is Stockbroker94, and well, you can probably tell with the thumbnail if I can figure that out, but at least the video title, what today's video is about. Today we're taking a look at the new F-150 Raptor, and in a weird way, not only what is it, but what isn't it? What is it not? That sounds weird, but please stay with me on this one. So, let's first take a look actually what it isn't. Now, when the Ram TRX first came out, people said immediately, and I think for no other reason other than the message that Dodge wanted people to kind of mimic, the Raptor needs a V8. Now, as we can see with this head title by Motor Trend, it is confirmed that V8 Raptor R is on the way, and that's likely is not going to be the new 5.2 Voodoo, supercharged of course, with roughly equivalent horsepower. I would say 720 would be a solid number to go with because it is more than the TRX, still less than the GTA 500. Obviously, it's an engine in a truck that, although it was surprisingly little compared to some of the older trucks of yesteryear, it's still heavier than the Mustang, and than the GT 500, which, call it heavy. It's not as heavy as the Challenger is, or at least was. Maybe it's gotten lighter. I don't know. Anyway, the new Raptor is unfortunately not right now with a V8. It's also not a hybrid like I've seen a lot of people were speculating. It'd be neat. I don't know why a lot of people have a problem with that. It's actually really fascinating. If you've not gotten a chance to drive the new Power Boost F-150, I would actually tell you, just go ahead to your local dealer, that whoever has one. It's hard to find them right now, but we just got at my dealership a limited trim Power Boost F-150, and I got to tell you, that's a nice truck. Even the XLT Power Boost that we got, wow. We had a sales manager that wanted to drive it that day. I cleaned that thing up to put it in the showroom. The guy took it right home that night just on a test drive, and as soon as he's got the paperwork in order, basically, as soon as he has the time to take off work and fill out the paperwork for it, he's going to be buying that one. So the truck he got like a few months back, I think, just after I left sales. He's only like, I think, a year into the lease, and he's already getting this new Power Boost. It's that good. It's got more horsepower and torque than the high output 3.5 that's coming out of the previous limited F-150 and of course previous Raptor. So is it a hybrid? No, even though that'd be cool. So tangent over. What it also is not. This is one thing I'll show you. Oh, okay, if I can be smarter than my computer. It is also not the new 6.8 liter V8 that's allegedly coming to the 2022 Mustang and F-150. Now, this is an engine that I believe was confirmed as of October, if I'm not mistaken, as far as, hey, we're finding out about this. Now, as soon as the 7.3 Godzilla debuted, and we got the horsepower figures for it, a lot of us are kind of disappointed. When the 7.3 was just kind of a twinkle in Ford's eye, and it wasn't quite being known by the public, there was so much speculation as far as how much horsepower this thing would put out. Now, we know right now it's 435, I believe, and 475 for the torque. It's a respectable motor. And what we've also found out is that these things like to be modified. There's one guy, oh man, I'll link his YouTube video in the pinned comment if I can remember it or find it later. This guy managed to eke out so far with a supercharger on this thing. So yes, forced induction, 1,400 horsepower. 1,400 horsepower. Okay, I mean the 7.3 is a beast of an engine. There's already one guy, I think he's trying to get into his Mustang. God, I mean there's so much things you can do with this. Whipple already has a supercharging kit for it that'll get you, I think, around 700 horsepower, but you can get that naturally aspirated as is. I mean, it's just an awesome motor. And that 7.3, above 7 liter displacement kind of hails back to the years where most engines were. If it wasn't 7 liter, it was hardly considered an engine, That's really cool. Now, what is the 6.8? We don't know. We just know that it's a pushrod V8, I guess. I mean, this article says pushrod. I've heard otherwise that it's actually going to be dual overhead cam to replace a 5 liter. Because let's face it, the last time we had, well, actually even says that the last time we had a displacement of this size, it was a modular V8. And it's not wrong. The current 5-liter is part of the modular family, just like the 4.6 in my Crown Vic is, just like the 6.8 V10 was. That was literally just a 5.4 with a little extra cylinders kind of slapped on the end of it, just like every other, I think the 5.8 Trinity was considered a modular. I mean, there's a lot of engines in the modular family. So it's kind of clear if this engine is indeed going to go in the Mustang and F-150, it's replacing the 5-liter. So your time with the 5-liter is going to be, unfortunately, rather limited. Do I think Ford's going to keep that one going as like a crate engine? Sure. But why would you get that when you can get the 7.3 stock making damn near as much horsepower as one you'd find in as a 5-liter in a Mustang? 435 horsepower isn't as much as 465 or the 480 you'd find in like the Bullet or Mach 1, but I mean, it's pretty good. But what's more important is the torque figure. 475 pound-feet of torque. That's a stock setting. I mean, that is impressive. You get 420 pound-feet of torque regardless of it's the GT or if it's the Mach 1 or the Bullet. I mean, you're capped at 420 pound-feet of torque. I mean, that's I mean, the 480 horsepower is nothing to sneeze at when it comes to a 5-liter. I mean, that's 95-ish, I think, horsepower per liter. That's something Dodge and Chevy, I don't know if they've managed to do that yet, without you having to take that home and then modify it yourself. In other words, something that they've offered as a vehicle, as is in a vehicle, making those kinds of figures, horsepower per liter. Power density is something Ford's really good at. And then we get this... the 7.3 comes along and it offers 475 pound-feet of torque above the 420. I mean, it's no wonder why people are already wanting to put this engine in there. And then you realize that, I mean, a cheap used 5-liter from like a pre-2015 F-150 or Mustang is still probably going to run you about 10 grand unless you know what you're doing, and maybe you get one that's just a few parts short of running. This 7.3, you can get them for $7,500, and it has everything you need. I mean, that's a good, viable engine. What I think is happening is Ford says, hey, we need to make these things cheaper, and we need to make them better. We need to make them more reliable. And that's, of course, what the pushrod is. I mean, that's not just 35 horsepower and 475 pound-feet of torque. That's a reliable rating. You're not just going to make that on a really good Wednesday, and you're not just going to make it for one pole. You're going to make that consistently. That's a well-built motor. Alas, I don't know what kind of inspired the rumor. I had some people tell me that they're going to message me later on a message board and say, ha, I told you, Ford is putting that 6.8 into the Raptor. I told you, eat it. But I don't know what inspired such certainty that that's going to be a thing. I mean, let's see here. Does this article? Yeah, our article was written back in October. This is basically all we knew at the time, and it's still kind of all we know now. We don't know torque. We don't know power figures. We don't know anything about this new 6.8. We don't know if it is indeed going to be a pushrod system. We just know it's going to be sharing the same, I think, aluminum block is what it's going to be doing. So that's not in the Bronco. That's not in the Raptor. We also heard that it was possibly going to be a 5-liter. And I guess I could live with that because it is a pretty renowned motor made by Ford. Again, we pointed out it's not as powerful as the 7.3. But that being said, I mean, they do put that in trucks. The current F-150 now has 400 horsepower. That's for 2021, of course. 400 horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque, I want to say. That is definitely better than the 395, 400 rating from the 2020 F-150 with a 5-liter. A little better numbers there. So would it have been viable? Sure. Honestly, I think Ford needs to include maybe a few motors in those Raptors just so you can kind of select your flavor. I mean, maybe there's some people out there that would be perfectly content with a hybrid Raptor. Obviously, that would include a lot more design than a regular Raptor. But what would take considerably less design and a little bit less, it'd be a little bit more simple, would be a 5-liter Raptor or one with the 7.3. We could see that. That is in the Super Duty, and you can get those in Tremors, and you can also get the 6.7 Power Stroke in a Tremor, for Pete's sake. All that to say, I've lost my trail of thought, actually. I've done that a lot. All that to say, this engine is not in the new Raptor. What is in the new Raptor is basically just it's just a revision of the previous 3.5 high output. We don't know anything about that right now. We don't know horsepower. We don't know torque. We don't know if that's even increased. We just know what it is. 450 horsepower, 510 would be the figure to beat. Is it hard to beat that? Probably not. Is it hard to beat that and make a reliable motor? Maybe. We know the Ford GT packs 643 horsepower, and I don't know the torque figures on that one. It's not nearly as healthy, but respectable numbers. I don't think we're going to see that in the Raptor. My prediction would be 475 horsepower, and if they can maintain a decent horsepower to torque ratio, we would see probably 530 to 540 pound-feet of torque. And that's still a respectable, healthy amount. The problem is, and you can see it in this headline, the TRX is mentioned. Now, a while ago, Dodge dropped the TRX. And in a way, I'm impressed because, yes, it is a truck with a 700-plus horsepower supercharged V8. There's not a lot of those lying around unless they've been taken to Roush or Hennessy or Shelby and modified, or unless some guy's bought a kit and done it himself. There's not a lot of those running around. And this one you can get from the factory, so it means you get a warranty. That's cool. We haven't seen that. The problem is Dodge has put this into an off-road trophy truck effectively. Let's not lie to ourselves. This is basically a trophy truck. But they pretended that it can't be done by anybody else, that it's never been done before. Even, basically what they're saying, no one else could do this. And again, you can take your vehicle out to get modified. And they're pretending that this is simply never before seen. Now, in a stock vehicle, that is true. We have never seen a vehicle that powerful. We've seen vehicles, of course, the big three all have their heavy-duty trucks that can far outpass that with sheer torque. And the 475 offered by the 6.7 Scorpion from Ford is nothing to sneeze at. That's a good bit of horsepower. Obviously, torque matters in something like that. But what we've seen from Dodge is they've convinced people that the only thing that matters is speed and horsepower figures. All they've done is made a faster truck. Let's not fool ourselves. At the end of the day, that is all they've done. They've just made one that gets off the line faster, that'll beat more vehicles down the quarter mile than Ford's Raptor will. And that's all they've done. When you're on an off-road Baja track, there's only so fast you can go before you're going to be out of control. And you have to go a certain speed to keep the vehicle under control. Just because you have the capability of going 150 miles an hour doesn't mean you're going to be doing that off-road. You're going to do that on a pavement, I guarantee it. You're not going to get one of those things that fast off-road unless you take it out to the salt flats. Unless it's literally just simulating an actual street. You're not going to do that on dunes. All they've done is made a faster vehicle than Ford has. They haven't made a better one. Here's my point. The new Raptor, the article will mention it down here, comes with optional 35 inches. Now, as somebody who doesn't drive an off-road vehicle, it's probably lost on me. That being said, I believe that's a pretty big tire. And as I understand it, that's supposed to help you get over obstacles a little bit better. And due to the increasing the overall diameter of the tire and the circumference, you're getting actually a little bit more vehicle lift, I guess is what you'd call it. So the ground clearance is actually increased. The stock, I believe, increased a little bit over the Raptor, but it's actually also more than the TRX. 12 inches with the 35 inches and 13.1 with the 37s. So, that's pretty impressive. And then also they built a different suspension. They've also got better breakover angles than the TRX has, which is also important. What they've done is they've made a better off-roading vehicle. I firmly believe they're going to make a more powerful one eventually than the TRX, but for now than the second gen Raptor. And I don't think they need to do anything else other than eventually offer something that, yes, does directly compete with the TRX as what the TRX is meant to do. The TRX will be very competent off-road, but it won't be like that's not the only thing it does. The TRX is basically meant to be competent on off-road, that you can brag you have an off-road vehicle, but what is it really meant for? It's really meant for taking people on a street race at a quarter-mile drag strip. That's all it's meant for. Even though it can do some of the off-roading. That's like somebody getting a stock Jeep and saying, well, you know, you're whatever you're driving, you know, you're there's not really a lot of direct competition. Your Explorer might be faster, you know, your Explorer ST might be faster than my Jeep Wrangler, but my Jeep Wrangler's a better off-roader. Like, well, yeah, I guess technically, yeah. You don't take it off-roading, just like most of the people who would buy a TRX. And to be fair, most of the people who I know that drive Raptors don't take them off-road. The biggest... I was talking to a friend of mine, he owns one. He used to take one to the dealership that I work at, and now he takes it to the current dealership that I work at, since that old one's closed, and technically this one's closer, so it's more convenient for him. He was telling me, he says, you know what, to be fair, the biggest obstacle I take this thing over is if I just feel really crazy, I want to jump over in the middle of one of the big mall parking lots, those parking stops. What do you call those? I don't know what you call them, but you know what I'm talking about. You know, you pull your car up against them and your wheels bump up against them, so you know where your vehicle's at, and you can I'm just going to park it here, and I'm close enough to that bumper. He says, you know, that's the biggest obstacle I take it on. I don't take it out in the snow because I don't want the frame to get rusty underneath, you know, and he's telling me all these things. And I mean, talk to anybody with a nice, expensive vehicle. Yeah, sure, it can probably do really well in the snow, but you're not going to take it out in the snow. And yeah, it probably does all right on gravel, but you're not going to take it in the gravel. You know, much like anybody who buys a Raptor or buys the TRX, that Jeep's not going to go off-road very much. So that being said, my point is the Raptor is going to be a much more useful, I think, off-road vehicle than the Dodge is, because all the Dodge did is be faster. That's all it's done. I'm very certain if we compare the new Raptor to the, second gen Raptor or even first gen Raptor, possibly. I don't know nearly as much about the first gen. I wasn't into cars as much, or at least trucks as much as I am now. But the TRX is not the most competent off-road vehicle. So I guess don't be fooled. Is it neat? Yes. Is it cool? Sure. But a supercharged V8 is not the only thing that constitutes a competent off-road vehicle. It makes a fast vehicle. But speed isn't everything, which is something I never thought I'd say. Now, that being said, I probably said something that's going to make somebody really, really mad. And if I have, go ahead and leave it in the comments. Hell, make a reply English. Make a reply video. You know, substantiate your arguments. I think Ford made a really competent product here. I can't wait to see one on the showroom floor, because they should still fit. I think they're going to be just low enough to clear our doors at the showroom. I'm excited to see one. I'm excited to take one for a test drive just for the heck of it, even though my two vehicles are an 06 Escape and an 06 Crown Vic Interceptor. I'm excited. And I'm also eventually going to be excited, yes, for the new V8-powered, supercharged Raptor. I'll be excited to see that. But that being said, we're going to see the new Bronco before we see that. And stay tuned. I'm probably going to do more videos on some of this stuff, maybe some of the discussions I have with other people. If I meet somebody who's bought the new Raptor and they want to be on to talk about it, we'll probably do that. This channel is going to be doing a lot more active stuff. I'm going to be a lot busier with this channel in the future. That being said, if you can put up with the rambling nature of my videos, more power to you. Feel free to subscribe, become a stalker today. This isn't the only content I'm going to be making, so there's going to be a lot more stuff to subscribe to. I'll be playing some more games, and yeah, I guess I don't know what else to say, but I've already said subscribe, become a stalker today. So we'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.